Hello everyone, it's Tristan with another video. Also, don't forget to check out Mickey's video tonight. We're going to be continuing the book of Ezra. We're going to push on through it, already at chapter 6. And these are really amazing people. We're going to read how they fainted not in tribulation, and God is able to restore their fortunes, and it's through having faith in Him. As I was studying some of the gospel today, what really spoke to me was the fact that Jesus mentioned a lot of times that we have little faith. But it's people like these people in Ezra where they knew God spoke to them, gave them a commandment, they followed through with it. They had faith. Through both times adversaries tried to stop it, we're going to learn how the commandment of God is fulfilled and the prophecies are fulfilled, and nothing's going to stop them. Because they are strong men of God. They are to stay strong and work and do what God commanded them to, no matter what comes their way. It says, Then Darius the king made a decree, and search was made in Babylonia, in the house of the archives where the documents were stored. And, of course, we're leaving off from where the adversaries tried to say something against the men of Israel. They were going back to build the house of the Lord and rebuild the temple. Adversaries try to stop them again. Oh, who said that you can come back and build this place? They tried to tell people of higher, I guess, authority, if you want to call it that. And here we're going to read how they responded to it when they tried to stop the men of God. And it says, And in Ecbatana, the citadel that is in the province of Media, a scroll was found, on which this was written, a record. In the first year of Cyrus the king issued a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem. Let the house be rebuilt, the place where sacrifices were offered, and let its foundations be retained. Its height shall be 60 cubits, and its breadth 60 cubits. With 3 layers of great stones and 1 layer of timber. Let the cost be paid from the royal treasury. And also let the gold and silver vessels of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took out of the temple that is in Jerusalem, and brought to Babylon, be restored and brought back to the temple that is in Jerusalem, each to its place. You shall put them in the house of God. Here we got another record. We get a lot of records that are kind of like a recap or restating some of the things we already studied. So this actually helps with understanding what the chapter is talking about. So we have here, we have the fact that after the adversaries tried to accuse these people, the only thing that was found in the archives was the fact that they were commanded to build this house. So what the devil tried to form against them shall not prosper. And as one of the prophets says, that any weapon formed against me shall not prosper, I think is how it says it. It's been a while since I read that verse, but that was brought to mind through what we are studying here. It says, Now therefore, Tetanai, governor of the province beyond the river, Shethar Bozani, and your associates, the governors who are in the province beyond the river, keep away. And we see there's the quotations here, end quotation in the beginning of a quote here, and I'm thinking that this is where like it says here, the governors who are in the province beyond the river keep away, and the adversaries failed, because the adversaries could have got to the men of God, and they could have stopped building um and just fainted in tribulation, but they didn't. They were strong, they worked, and they focused on God's commandment, and that's it. And stayed strong in the Lord and listened to Him, and did what they were told by God. And the adversaries were told to keep away, because the only royal archive used against them was that they were allowed to rebuild this temple. It says, let the work on this house of God alone. Let the governor of the Jews and the elders of the Jews rebuild this house of God on its site. Moreover, I make a decree regarding what you shall do for these elders of the Jews for rebuilding this house of God. And I'm looking at this again. It says, let the governor of the Jews and the elders. So this was probably those adversaries, is what I'm thinking, that tried to form things against them. And instead of affecting them and their building of the temple, instead it turned on them, and now they're having to help. And God is a just and holy God, and He's going to fulfill the prophecies and the promises, and through people that are strong in His commandments, they will prosper. It says that okay, so we're gonna start middle of this verse. It says, for the rebuilding of this house of God, the cost is to be paid to these men in full and without delay from the royal revenue, the tribute of the province from beyond the river, and whatever is needed. They were to give whatever was needed. Yeah, without delay. This is really interesting too. And the history here is very important. And the whole Bible can be used for reproof and doctrine and correction, and in righteousness, and all those good things is what we can use this scripture for. And it says here, whatever is needed, bulls, rams, or sheep for burnt offerings to the God of heaven, wheat, salt, wine, or oil, as the priest at Jerusalem required. Let that be given to them day by day without fail, that they may offer pleasing sacrifices to the God of heaven, and pray for the life of the king and his sons. Also, I make a decree that if anyone alters this edict, a beam shall be pulled out of his house, and he shall be impaled on it, and his house shall be made a dunghill. And after reading this, what automatically came back to my mind was when we read Zephaniah. In Zephaniah, it says that a house would become a desolation, the wicked people, where animals would be in this desolated place. And this is what that makes me think of, the beam falling out and the person dying therein. And these are people that would not help out and fulfill what God set in place. Because anyone that alters the edict, may the God who has caused his name to dwell there overthrow any king or people who shall put out a hand to alter this, or to destroy this house of God that is in Jerusalem. See, and we got this word alter twice, or changing, trying to affect what God already put in place. Or, as it says here, or to destroy this house of God that is in Jerusalem. I, Darius, make a decree. Let it be done with all diligence. And when the adversaries reported to him, hey, they're building the temple again, and we want to look in the want you to look in the royal archives. We're going to make them stop, and we're going to ruin everything. But the men of God, like I already mentioned, they were fainting not in tribulation, and God's promise it was fulfilled, and the people's fortunes were restored. The men of Israel, and it says here, then according to the word sent by Darius the king, Tetanai the governor of the province beyond the river, Shethar-Bozenai, and their associates did with all diligence what Darius the king had ordered. And the elders of the Jews built and prospered. Throughout the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo. Yeah, they did it through the prophesying of them. I was re-looking at that because it's very fascinating, that verse right there. I might read that again. And the elders of the Jews built and prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo. They finished their building by decree of God of Israel, by decree of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes king of Persia. And this house was finished on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, in the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king. And the people of Israel, the prophets and the Levites and the rest of the returned exiles, celebrated in dedication of this house of God with joy. There's a lot of great words in here. We have the people that tried to alter it, and we have they celebrated the dedication. They offered at the dedication of this house of God 100. Okay, I'm pulling it up to where we can see more than one verse at a time here. Okay, they offered at the dedication of this house of God 100 bulls, 200 rams, and 400 lambs as a sin offering for all Israel. And that means a lot, because this is before Jesus came and they had to atone for their sins. These were people following God's orders before Christ ever came and was the ultimate sacrifice. These people were trusting in God and just doing as they commanded and working and just listening to his commandments, no matter what came in the way, no matter how many times the adversaries tried to stop them. It says, male goats according to the number of the tribes of Israel, and they set the priests in their divisions and the Levites in their divisions for the service of God at Jerusalem, as it is written in the book of Moses. On the 14th day of the 1st month, the returned exiles kept the Passover. For the priests and the Levites had purified themselves together. All of them were clean. So they slaughtered the Passover lamb for all the returned exiles, for their fellow priests, and for themselves. It was eaten by the people of Israel who had returned from exile. The men of Israel, and we read before that this is what this is about. The men of Israel getting their land restored, and nothing's going to stop it. No adversary is, because God ordained this, and as we see, it is going to be fulfilled, and it is being fulfilled, and it already has in past times. And it says, and also by everyone who had joined them and separated himself from the uncleanness of the peoples of the land to worship the Lord, the God of Israel. And they kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with joy. You see that they were very joyful. It says here, for the Lord had made them joyful, and had turned the heart of the king of Assyria to them, and that he aided them in the work of the house of God, the God of Israel. Their hope was restored. There is hard times, but then there are times when when they're going to be blessed. And like like the book of Ecclesiastes says, there's a time and place for everything. Time to tear down and a time to build up, and we see this throughout this book. That in Ezra, this chapter is amazing because we see adversaries tried a second time to stop him, and they failed. The Royal Archives said that God ordained this to happen. It is going to be fulfilled. And they could have easily fainted in tribulation and everything would have been ruined, but this is part of God's purpose and His plan, and we're supposed to focus on His commandments and be faithful, be of great faith, and when God restores our fortunes and we are blessed through Him, we are supposed to show forth that joy. And pretty sure this is the verse I wanted to relook at. That's not the verse. There was a really powerful verse in here that I like to read a lot. And it's, let's see, and their associates. Okay. So it's, so they slaughtered the Passover lamb for all the returned exiles and their fellow priests and for themselves. See the community here and them all being together and all having the same purpose to fulfill the commandments of God is something that speaks to me most in here. And it's really important that we are built up together through Christ, which died for our sins. And this was a really, really powerful chapter to be reading. And of course, history is not always easy to understand throughout the Old Testament, but it has its purpose, and there's lessons that we can learn through this. And it's beautiful how God restores the fortunes of people who trust in Him, and how God's plan is fulfilled. And I appreciate everybody that has been watching my videos, and it's been nice being able to speak about the book of Ezra with everyone. It's been a pleasure being able to study some of the Old Testament history and some of the things that went on before the coming of Jesus. And thanks everyone for watching.